Minister, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. I think the coming months will be troubled. The financial crisis, the peak of it is probably behind us. The economic crisis is just beginning. And as we see in country after country, waves of retrenchment, there will be a political crisis, and some societies will be destabilized. No one quite knows what really is happening. We're all improvising, feeling our way to the future, not quite sure what will work and what will not. But there is a deep sense of an epochal change in the world. Years from now, when we look back, the 3 months from August the 8th, when China enacted this fantastic opening ceremony of the Olympic Games in Beijing, through the financial meltdown in September and October, to the election of an African American as the president of the most powerful country on earth on November the 4th. Those 3 months will represent a dramatic trend break at the beginning of the 21st century. But what that future holds for us is still only vaguely to be discerned. We can be sure that when it's all over, Asia will play a more dominant role in world affairs. It's a little like Kinderberger's analysis of the Great Depression, years after it happened. He saw it as a shift of power across the Atlantic, from a Great Britain which could no longer hold the reins of leadership, to an America which was unwilling then to hold the reins of leadership. But it will not be a Chinese century, it will not be an Indian century. It will be a more variegated, multipolar world. But multipolar world is a messy world, which means new dangers, new uncertainties. And we just saw on the news this morning the release of the latest National Intelligence Report from the US Department of Defense, seeing a relative decline in US power over the next 2-3 decades, and the emergence of possible challenges in China and India. In some ways, the world will have to be rebuilt afresh, top down and bottom up. Top down because to solve the problems before us in a multipolar world, countries have got to cooperate and coordinate policy actions. The G20 meeting, which was held in Washington recently under the chairmanship of President Bush, marks the beginning of a long, drawn-out, multi-year process. But it is desperately needed. You take, say, the financial institutions in the world today, which are largely, wholly or partially nationalized. If they're nationalized too long, a whole new set of problems or moral hazards in the world will arise. So after a few years, they've got to be re-privatized. But without a sensible regulatory framework in place, how can we re-privatize safely? There's certainly a point of view that one reason for the recent crash is because over the years, a parallel banking sector, unregulated, has ballooned out of control nationally and internationally. So we've learned our lessons. And as the New Zealand Prime Minister has just put forth very persuasively earlier on, we need desperately to make progress on Doha. In December, modalities on ag and NAMA. If we don't clear this hump, an Obama administration facing protectionist pressures will not be able to push forward the process. But it is more than that. We need reform in the old Bretton Woods institutions so that more resources can be harnessed more of our actions in different parts of the world can be coordinated. This means a sharing of power. And we know historically that power is never ceded willingly or easily. It's got to be struggled for. It comes as a result of crisis and conflict. But that's just at the level of big institutions. We know that the crisis is also a crisis of individuals. With the huge diminution of assets in the stock markets and properties, and a wholesale re-evaluation of asset values, of individuals, of companies, of entire countries, this is a crisis of individuals as well. And what do we tell young people? What do we tell our children? We tell them now, look, no shortcuts. Back to the basics. Hard work, never spend more than you earn, education, knowledge, the most important things. And establish carefully trust. The trust which takes years to build up, which can easily be destroyed in a moment. Never lose that. And then slowly rebuild society again from the bottom up. And in this process, which has a competitive dynamic to it, some countries, some ethnic groups, some religious groups will do better than others. And in the process, there will be new divisions in human society. And jihadism is but one aspect of it. What followed the Great Depression? What can follow this present crisis if we are not careful? In a multipolar world, there will be diversity. A diversity of national institutions, a diversity of value systems, a diversity in the way human society is organized. And if we take liberties with ourselves, we will see very quickly new conflicts in the world. Here, APEC, the Asia Pacific, has been a good thing going. 21 economies accounting for more than half the world's trade and GDP have been able to coexist, cooperate in a very open, peaceful, friendly manner. And we should deepen it, strengthen it, nurture all links, officials, political leaders, businessmen, students, NGOs, and help create a future which is relatively safer and more hopeful for all of us. I would say, looking around the world, it is the best thing going, and in our progress lies a hopeful future for the whole world. Thank you very much.